Senator Edwards.
Mr. Vice President, I thank you for giving me the opportunity to contribute to the debate on this motion with regards to the Draft National Development Strategy 2016 to 2030, also known as Vision 2030, which the government is asking that it go before a joint select committee. Now, I want to start off with, if you would permit me, a quote from the actual document. No.
The document itself is not before us that we go into the document at all. You would notice that honorable members who have gone before have not actually gone into the document, but have taken a very broad sense in relation to visions and development plans. So I would ask that you stay away from going into the document itself. Continue.
Sure. Thank you for your guidance. Now, what I want to put forward is that persons across Trinidad and Tobago, in every sphere of life, they, at this very moment, they are looking for some sort of direction as it pertains to the direction the country intends to head, and especially their role in all of that, and how a direction, once presented, will benefit them. Because you have so many issues as a country that we're experiencing right now, and I do believe that it is high time that we need some sort of a policy direction in this country. When we look at the different pieces of legislation that we have before us, many of it would have come about as a result of a particular direction that a government would have seen or identified for our country. And this is no different. My only concern from the onset is that this document that is being put forward to the Joint Select Committee, I do not believe in its current state has adequate input from the public. Because I would have attended an event relative to this document, and I walked away with the understanding that about 600 individuals would have contributed to this document, which we have being presented to be considered by the Joint Select Committee. And that is concerning to me, because in a country with the population being 1.4 million persons, you have 600 persons contributing to this document. And I do believe that much better can be done. And as such, I feel as though this document may need further consultation before it even reaches the stage of being considered by a Joint Select Committee, where you would have high-level persons, expertise coming to the fore and contributing. It is also concerning the timeline that this is being asked to be considered, because the 21st of June, as we all know, is next week. And while Senator Small would have put forward a rationale for how this may be actually piloted insofar as the document, or the committee rather, meeting and setting out a course of action, and then this being picked up in the other session, I still do not think that that is good enough. I am fully 100% in support of any government that puts forward a document for national development, because I think that is where we need to be thinking, national development, and how many of the agencies, ministries, the activities of a country are interlinked and provide a roadmap for development in this country. Now, there must be public buy-in. It must transcend red, yellow, and any other color constituency in this country, because it is a document for the people of this country. And as such, persons should not feel as though this particular document is the policy of a particular administration. I do agree that there must be a bare minimum when it comes to development in this country. And that begs the question, where is the youth policy? Where is the gender policy? Where is their policy on the environment, or ICT, or public health? These are the policies that are very necessary to the direction of this country. And there should not be a situation where there is a top-down approach whatsoever. The common man on the street, the guy playing on the basketball court or in the football field, or those in the parlors across the country, they should feel a part of this document if it is to move forward. But it seems so far distant from the average citizen in this country. And that is a big concern. Because let's say this document passes through the Joint Select Committee and it goes through all the levels of approval and it becomes public policy. Where would the support come from when it comes to all those actors who would be very much involved in the new landscape as we roadmap our way to 2030? If it is that the common man on the street does not feel as though he has a voice where this is concerned, then this will amount to nothing. And the fact is that our government does not even need to bring this to the Parliament or to a Joint Select Committee. Because if the government views that this is the right direction the country should head in, then the government, by the very nature of it being voted into office, has that right and has that responsibility. So I do, in one stead, commend the government for bringing forward this document, and it would be scrutinized by the Parliament of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. However, as I reiterate, I do think there needs to be greater buy-in where this is concerned. Now, it's also being termed a draft national development strategy. Why not simply be called the National Draft Strategy? Because the fact is that regardless of whether it is passed or not, there will be changes in the future in some way, form or fashion. As it stands right now, we do not have a draft constitution. We have a constitution of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, which is a living, breathing document and which would undergo changes from time to time. And I do believe the same model should be adopted or accepted where this is concerned, because you will not present a draft in any one stead, expecting it to be at this level where you're asking the Parliament to consider the contents of the document. To me, it makes me wonder how much confidence there actually is in the document that it is still being considered a draft. So that I would appreciate if it would be removed, that title, draft, and be presented as the National Development Strategy 2016-2013. Now, just to highlight some of the downfalls of a country not having a national draft strategy, and I would actually look at two instances that I can speak of recently. The Government Information Services Limited, and I would have previously been an employee there. And as we all know, that is obviously on its way out. The Minister of Communications would have gone in there and advised employees that the agency would be closed down. Now, I'm concerned because we still have not received that report on the relevance of state media. That was a mass consultation, but yet you have GISL being closed down. You have families being affected, persons who would be left with no other decision than to depend on others. Now, that is very, very, very concerning when one has to understand the purpose of state media in this country, and it has a place. You cannot simply put persons out on the streets. And you will also look at the TDC, and especially the manner in which that was handled. I do think that tourism in this country is failing. We can do much better when it comes to that. I would prefer to look at international television and see when we have some of these game shows, who knows, a trip to Trinidad and Tobago, and it's being sponsored by the Tourism Development Company or whatever would come after that. But the fact is that we're seeing institutions being closed down because we do not have a plan. We do not have a plan that incorporates the agencies that currently exist. What we have is a decision that comes about every single day that we find that this no longer has relevance or that no longer has relevance. But we have to understand the social impacts of these things on the lives of persons involved. And I'm not just putting this at the feet of this government whatsoever, because decisions would have been made, let's say, for instance, in GISL, to expand the GISL beyond possibly its means. But it's a matter of how you handle things moving forward. And I do think that had we had a proper strategy in place where the state agencies were actively involved, then we would not be having many of the situations that we're experiencing at the moment. And that draws me back to this whole top-down approach, where you would have a policy coming into effect and many persons feeling as though they had no role to play in how this was drafted or how this was crafted in any which way. And that is the kinds of things that a government, a parliament should stay away from. Because we are all aware, especially in the other house, persons are elected and they have a responsibility. And as such, I do feel a type of way when I do not hear members saying my constituents want X, Y, and Z. My constituents prefer this. We're hearing my party and this is the direction, and that is not what this is about whatsoever. Mr. Vice President, I would actually prefer if we would not whatsoever acknowledge party affiliation while in this August chamber, while in the parliament altogether. Because you're not here representing party, you're here representing people. And many politicians tend to forget that. And it's high time that they be reminded of this. If it is that we are to move forward, we cannot see things in black and white or red and yellow. We have to see it as the common man in the street and how we are here to make his life much better in the context of things. We're experiencing economic downturn right now. How many citizens in this country feel confident that in a year's time or 2 years' time or 5 years' time that better will come? These are the kinds of questions that we need to drill down to. Because the fact is that as much as we will have an overarching strategy, the day-to-day runnings and operations of the government or the public sector as a whole needs to change. And you don't need any strategy right now to deal with things today. These things will be looking at long term and how we put things in place. Now, I'm still not saying that we do not need a strategy altogether. But what are we doing to deal with the problems that people are facing today? That is my concern. Because the fact is that every day I have to mix and traverse up and down and interact with persons who want better in this country. When we listen to radio programs, when we look at the television, when we see protests, people want better. They want better all around. But many persons are not seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. And that is why we need charismatic leadership. That is why we need leadership that gets down on the ground. And when I speak of leadership, I'm speaking every single member of parliament, be it at the lower house or the upper house, being actively involved in the everyday lives of persons. No strategy could really dictate how that interaction takes place if persons do not understand first and foremost their responsibility and their right as a member of parliament. You have across the board persons filling ministries, permanent secretaries, technocrats and so on and so forth. But after a while they become very much disjointed from the realities that face us as a population. And it's high time that we remind them that people are suffering in this country. People are going through hardship. And it is not a matter of I vote this party into power and that party into power and things will change, because you know what, there is no party that will ever come into office and fix every single problem that we have. But if we do have parties understanding their role and responsibility and understanding that it's not a matter of scrapping projects and throwing down this because it was done by a previous administration, but understanding that it was here and it was developed for the good of every single citizen in this country, then and only then we can achieve true development in this country. Until then, it's just a joke. Until then, it's about how long I can last in office and how many terms that I can get. And I, for one, am not concerned with popularity and all these things. So as it relates to this strategy, Mr. Vice President, and going before the Joint Select Committee, I do think that persons would have a responsibility insofar as being able to vet this document, being able to provide recommendations and so on and so forth, and being able to as well bring in some of the expertise that is necessary to provide constructive criticism. But at the same time, have we adequately captured the voice of the common man in the street through this document? And for me, I don't think so. So I am putting it at the feet of the government to do better where possible. Let's see how we can re-engage the citizenry of this country. Let's see how we can make them feel part and parcel to this process and not leave it to a Joint Select Committee to then vet and then pass this accordingly. better can be done. Because it's only when election time comes around that you tend to see a lot of your member of parliament. Let that be throughout the tenure. Let that be a lesson when it comes to if you are not re-elected. And this document should not be a political football whatsoever. It should be the national strategy as it relates to development in this country. So we have a prime opportunity here to do good by the citizens of this country. We have an opportunity to capture their voices. We have an opportunity to ensure that at the end of the day, every single person in this country benefits, regardless of what area they're from, what constituency, regardless of their religious faith, regardless of how much money they make, regardless of so many other factors. And I think that this document, it's a bit vague. And that is something that I would want to see corrected. So, just to round up the point, I do believe that we need this strategy. There is no question about it. And anyone who questions whether or not we need this strategy or a strategy has an improper motive. So I would fully support the strategy once it's done in such a way that we all, as citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, feel part and parcel. And I would just say you really need to consider whether now is the right time to bring this to a joint select committee. And after you have gone through that thought, really and truly look at how, if this document is to proceed as is, how much buy-in would there really be? And with those few words, Mr. Vice President, I thank you.